Okay, welcome everybody to this next Creatress Rising show. We have with us beautiful Deb Roach, also known as Debzillah. Now, Deb is a 3 times world champion at pole dancing. She is an absolute lover of all things fitness, from sensual movement to bodybuilding and everything in between. She has an incredible outlook on life, and I am really excited about today's session. So welcome, Deb, and thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm really, really honored that you found me.
Yeah, awesome. Who is that sitting next to you?
This is Trevor. His full name is Trevor Ernesto Fenn, my miniature sausage.
Okay, hi Trevor. I thought we should welcome him into the space, seeing as he looks like he's going to stay.
He's always here, yeah.
Yeah. So Deb, how did you get started with not only pole dancing, but with your, very active life?
Yeah, so I actually grew up not being included in physical activity or team sports and was actively discouraged from participation. So I arrived on this earth in a different package to many of my peers, and it was in school that the children really made me feel different to everyone else. And that came out most of all in sport. That was really prevalent. And they used to do this awful thing, and I'm sure they don't do it anymore because they're much more anti-bullying than they were in the mid-late 80s. But they used to do this awful thing where, there'd be 2 team captains and they'd each choose a student from the class to be in their teams until there was no one left standing on the court. And I'd always be the last person standing. Always, always. So all of my experiences with sport and physical activity as a child they started off with this sense of rejection and exclusion and not being good enough. So it wasn't until I was in the 6th grade that there were some twins that arrived at my school from overseas, and they didn't have the same hatred for me as the other students did. And they started going to jazz ballet classes after school, and they encouraged me and invited me to go along with them. And I loved it. And I did, I copped so much crap from the other students there, but these 2 girls did look after me, and I really enjoyed it, even though I was constantly told that I was too fat and that I wasn't good. I was passionate about it. I was learning to move my body. I enjoyed moving with the music, and the teacher was encouraging. And over time, I progressed. I only did it for 2 years, and then that was it. I was at high school, but I also took up ice skating because I'd tried a season of netball, and when I went back for the 2nd season, they kicked me off the team saying I brought the performance of the team down. And so I went, well, I want to do something that isn't a team sport and doesn't matter about anyone else except me. And for me, figure skating was that. Also, the fact that I went and I tried it with some friends and I couldn't do it, and I just wasn't used to not being able to do things and was very frustrated. And that kind of made me put my foot down and say, I will have lessons in this, please and thank you, until I'm competent. And competent was, for me, earning a medal in a competition. So I did that.
Okay.
Yeah. So I did, I found ways to be physically active because I felt I loved music. I loved moving with music. I liked being expressive. Like being on ice is such a glorious feeling. But largely through my childhood, my adolescence, and even early adulthood, I was quite academic and cerebral. I existed primarily in the space above my shoulders, in my head and in my neck. And I was so anxious and so stressed and so tensed all of the time. And it was in my early 20s, I'd never had spots. I'd never had any acne or anything as a teenager. And all of a sudden, all of this stress that I was holding on to at 22, 23 years old came out as adult onset severe cystic acne. My face was covered, my back was covered. Um, it was awful because I'd always had beautiful, clear skin, and my own idea of feeling beautiful in my own body, in my own skin. And this, it wasn't having one arm that was a problem for me. It was when this sudden eruption of acne happened. And I was working as a network engineer, and I spent quite a lot of money on, Fraxel laser to rectify it once we got it to settle down. But existing in your head and existing in my head, not breathing beyond my chest was like, that was something I just didn't do. I was constantly breathing in this small space up here, working in a computer like this, not inhabiting my full body, or connecting with myself in any physical way was really damaging my health. And that was starting to come out through my pores. So, yeah, I had
Yes.
people I worked with encourage me to try going to the gym with them, and it started really slowly. But the more I did it, and I was getting encouragement and I was enjoying it, and I learned about endorphins and how good exercise can feel when there's no pressure, when there's no judgment and there's no pressure, and you're able to like explore and learn. And this is a world that I knew absolutely nothing about, and I am a sponge. I've read, as a child, having no friends, I did so much reading. I would want all the books every book club day. And
Yeah.
so I learned as much as I could about, I was doing running, so I learned all about that. Wasn't so interested in weights at this stage. And when I was about 20, 24, 25, I was a bit intimidated by all of that. But I love Pilates. I bought those Windsor Pilates DVDs back in the
I
day.
remember doing those.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I got into it, yeah, really gently that way. So I was only doing running and Pilates um, when I was stage dancing at the nightclub, and met my first pole dancing instructor because they did a performance and I thought they were incredible. And I told them that, and I said, "You're so lucky with two arms and these amazing abilities." And they said, "You might have amazing abilities too. You just need to come in and try." And they actually challenged me to have a go, and I love a challenge. So that's what got me hooked to that, because again, everyone found it hard. It wasn't just me that found it
Yeah.
challenging. Pole is really tough, regardless of how many fingers you've got. So I fell in love with it that way. But I was actually a Cisco network engineer as my first career. And
Yeah. Wow.
yeah, so I did that for a decade, and gradually got more and more interested in fitness, and I'd spend time at my desk looking outside and just being wanting, yearning to go out and explore more of this other world. And my brother was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis around this time, with quite advanced progressive multiple sclerosis. And it really just made me click that life is too short to spend it sitting behind a desk, stuck in my head, when I felt this pull, like a really strong calling to be in my body all the time. I just wanted to
Yeah.
move all the time. And so redundancies came around, and I got out and I went and studied group fitness and personal training, and I became a personal trainer, and all the courses, just doing all the courses and learning and working in the field that became my passion and still is to this very day.
Yeah. Amazing. And so tell me about those first few years, or first few kind of months of learning pole. Uh, like how did you go about stretching yourself and really encouraging yourself to just keep going back until you nailed something?
Um, Look at even the first lesson for me was transformational. Like, obviously, being a stage dancer, even though I didn't follow traditional movement patterns, I did have very good body awareness. And in French, we say maîtrise de soi, but in English, just body control, body awareness, and body control. So in my very first lesson, we got me into the cross leg layback, where I'm hanging from the
Yeah.
squeeze of my thighs with no hands on the pole in my very first lesson, going, holy crap, I am capable of so much more than I knew, than I gave myself credit for. And that was transformational in and of itself. Like it changed my worldview.
Yeah.
Going, wow, all of these things that I thought weren't for me, all of these things that I thought that were beyond my limits and outside the realm of my possibilities, I've been wrong. I've been really wrong. And I've been selling myself drastically short. So yeah, those first pole lessons,
What
you
an
know, and
incredible realization.
yeah, yeah, right. And you know,
Yeah.
those first few lessons, the dance parts I really loved, being able to pivot, like understanding dance movement, I took to really quickly, but some things took a really long time. Like, because I'm
Mhm.
hanging off one arm, that second climb to get up the pole, that took so much longer than it takes people who can engage evenly through both shoulders to get up the pole. That
Yeah.
took a long time. And understanding how to invert my body without being able to pull through both arms to lift my pelvis. That took me a long time
Yeah.
too, because obviously not experiencing so much play as a child, not experiencing so much freedom and play, I felt quite scared. Like there was a fear there in being able to turn upside down. But I learned it. I learned headstands and I practiced them like so much just to get comfortable thinking when my head was the wrong way around, and knowing where my body was in space when I'm upside down to build my confidence. And it did take ages, but you know, here I am nearly 15 years later, still doing the thing.
Yeah.
But that was,
Amazing. Amazing.
yeah, everyone progresses at different rates, and someone's strength is the person standing next to them's weakness, and pole is like that for everyone, given on, you know, your body
Yeah.
proportions, you know, your dynamics, your movement capability, how, you know, mobile you are as well. Yeah,
Mm.
everyone finds something challenging.
That's one thing that seems to be really emerging out of pole dancing at the moment is this no judgment aspect that we're all, you know, all different body shapes and
Yeah,
sizes can do the thing on the pole and we can all look, you know, sensual and beautiful and have fun. And, you know, it seems to be a really wholesome part, you know, community.
it really is. It really is. And it doesn't matter. Like, there are studios that really want to be sexy and who partner a weight loss offering or focused stuff with their pole offering. We're not that. My studio and my
Yeah.
environment, we are completely inclusive, body positive. You're perfect as you are. You know, we love you exactly as you are, and you will learn to love yourself exactly as you are by showing up for yourself and doing this thing. And people do.
Yeah.
It really does change who you are. Like, just being around other women, all cheering each other on. And we're not dressed in tiny clothes because like we all want to be super exposed. We don't actually want to be exposed that much, so much of the time. But it's what we need in order to get the skin contact with the pole. That's how we grip, it's how we move, it's how we rotate. We don't necessarily yearn for it or want it, but we learn to be comfortable with it. And some days, yeah, you rock up and you feel great. Like, yes, I'm free as my pole self. When you
Yeah.
take all your clothes off, you feel like your real self when you're in the tiniest clothes. There are days like that as well. But it's, you know, it's necessity
Yeah.
that drives us to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how did you go? Like, there's an element of what you do with stage dancing and pole dancing, but even just it's such a part of the culture with women is, you know, doing things to make ourselves look beautiful, whether it's makeup or clothes or whatever it may be. But it's like with your arm, there's no replacement there. There's nothing that's going to cover it up and kind of make it beautiful. And so that beauty has to come from an acceptance. And how have you gone with, like, how did you go with that journey?
Completely the wrong way to begin with. So I think I was about 14 when I first dyed my hair jet black and went gothic, and so I felt like I wasn't fitting in, and I found dark beauty, and there was this whole subculture of the people who didn't fit in. We all seemed to go in that direction, in that gothic and industrial direction. And at least I found acceptance there for a good decade, I'd say. But then, like, became so rebellious, so like increasingly instead of like harnessing my own internal, like my own inner beauty and feeling like quite natural and quite comfortable with it, I went the other way. I went really extreme. I went quite alternative. I had the lip ring. I had lots of piercings. I had bright green hair. And I was kind of like, if you're going to stare at me because of this, I'm going to give you 10 other reasons too. And I always felt attractive. It's just that people would stare, and I wanted to feel like I was in control of that. So it was taking the power back for me, was in really amplifying how different I was. But after a couple of years of yoga, I realized it was probably all a bit much and I didn't need to go that far. And I could settle down and just tone it back and be myself and be comfortable with that. It took time. It was only really in the last kind of 5 or 6 years. So even up until 2017, I had a death hawk, which is like the shaved sides of my head. I had long hair, but I had like this full death hawk and like shaved sides and black hair, and wore a lot of black. And I don't actually think I noticed the change as it was happening. But I started growing it out, and then my hair started getting lighter and my clothes started getting brighter. And I think finding the studio that I now own really changed me as a person, and it was all very natural. And I didn't think about it. I was just in something all about, intuitively driven to make different choices. And I kind of look back at those times now and cringe.
I think we all do, though, really. Like, there's some definite parts of my transformation that are a little bit cringeworthy.
Yeah, okay. I'm glad I'm
but
not alone.
because I look at you now, and it's like your beauty is so much about what's on the inside and the way that you shine just as yourself. So it made me really curious as to your transformation there. So that's awesome. And so tell us more about Stargazer Studios.
Well, I lived in the UK for a number of years, and I was touring with a circus there called Extraordinary Bodies, which is this amazing integrated circus company. So they had both disabled and non-disabled performers in the same cast. But we were just starting on our next work, and I got a call when I was performing in Thailand that my mum had cancer, and that I would need to come home and look after her. So that was fine. My partner packed up all my things. I got straight on the flight to Sydney, and I've been here ever since. And I just looked up on the internet the closest place to her where I could teach pole, so I could get a job while I was her carer. And this place, World of Pole, showed up, and I went in, and they're like, oh yeah, we're all about pole as a vehicle for growth and transformation rather than just a fitness modality. We're not a gym. We're a community center which uses finding joy through pole to change who we are as happier, more fulfilled and embodied people. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. And they explained to me that they didn't do leveled classes, that they have this app, so that every student that's in the system is connected to the app, and we track their progress. So whatever moves you're working on, you can go any day of the week that suits you. So if the kids have got soccer on Tuesdays this term, you go on Wednesdays instead, or whatever. And you can go to any class with any instructor. They know exactly what you're working on because they can see it in the app, and they can help you with that. Or if you're frustrated and you're not progressing, they give you something else entirely. There's no restriction. Like, you don't get held back. Now, I had this horrible experience when I was in learning pole in 2010, and I couldn't get this move called the Jamila. And I repeated this term, which because you have to complete all the required moves in order to be able to go up a level. And this one move
Yeah, okay.
I just couldn't do. And it was really frustrating and disheartening for me that I would see all my friends and peers progress, and this one thing that I couldn't do kept me in the same class. And after 3 terms, I gave up. I stopped doing
Mm,
pole in a class environment. I just trained with friends at practice times and saw what my body could do, because it was just, I felt too, it had gone from feeling really empowered to, because I couldn't do that one thing, I felt like I was then disempowered. It was
yeah.
the opposite
Yeah.
experience. And I really love the system that we have at my studio, because you never experience that. There's never that, you can't do this, you can't move forward. They're like, oh, you can't do this? That's fine. We're going to work on this instead. And to help you one day be able to do this, we'll condition your body in this way.
Yeah.
So you're
Amazing.
always working on two similar things. Yeah. So it's a really different kind of pole studio to anything else here in Sydney. But I really love
Yeah.
the way that, if you're a former gymnast, you come in and you kick butt at all the moves thrown at you. You progress as quickly as your body is ready for. But
Yeah.
if you're new to movement, you've also got the space to learn as slowly as your body wants you to, without ever feeling any pressure or ever feeling like you're not successful.
Amazing. Amazing. And so how did the transition go from you working there to owning it? So that's a pretty big
Um,
step too.
yeah. So the previous owners um, fell pregnant and decided that they wanted to follow a different adventure in life, and that they were done with the pole dancing adventure, and they put it up for sale. And my students were like, you should really buy it. We don't want anyone else to run it. We don't want anyone else to own it. You should really buy it. And I'm like, I don't have any money. How can I do that? Um, but they waited and waited for the right buyer, and the right buyer never came. So I went to them with the proposal. I said, look, I don't have any money, but what if I paid, if you, the rate, the amount that you want for the studio, what if I pay you back that amount out of the business every month for a fixed term? So that would pay you, you wouldn't get a lump sum, and I'm sorry, but you would get, you know, 3 years of fixed income at a very good figure. And they were happy with that. So that's how I came to own the studio. Yeah, and so that was
Right.
in 2019. And once I got the rope, like got the whole, how should I phrase this? Once I got the hang of running a business, um,
Yeah.
I I was able to understand more of who I am and what my values are, and what our business values are, and what our core beliefs are, and really to put those in writing and to create a vision board. And so last year in March, we became Stargazer Pole Studio.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome. And so I have two more questions for you.
sure.
If there was one thing that you could share with every woman, and that you could gift to every woman, the knowledge or understanding about her body, what would that be?
Yeah. It's so important to take the time, to create the time, and to spend the time in connecting with how your body feels, connected to your breath, connected to your movement, away from everyone and everything else, and to be really present to that, to have that time for yourself. This is the only body that you'll ever inhabit. You have to spend every moment of every day with it. You might as well make that time as pleasurable and comfortable as possible. And without a movement practice, without some form of connection from here down into here, that pleasure and that comfort is going to be reduced. You might as well maximize the amount of joy you can experience in your own skin. And it doesn't matter what the size of your body is, what the shape of your body is, what configuration it comes in. It's all completely irrelevant. You are capable of connecting to your breath and moving your belly. And that's where it begins, and it will change your life.
Get in your body.
Yeah, right.
Awesome. And what goodies have you got for us that are going inside the app? What classes or pieces of content are you sharing with the Creatress Rising Sisterhood?
Yeah, so I'm going to be creating a little yoga flow, but it's not one of those soft, it's not a soft yoga flow. It's all about inviting in your goddess energy and shaking the breath of fire and getting rid of anything that doesn't serve you to clear and make space for the things that you actually want. So that is one offering. The other thing is a short Pilates practice that will really connect you to your spine, to spinal undulation, but also to the power in your belly and to really harnessing your core strength. That just briefly explains the principles of centering. And my third offering is a little bit of a saucy one, a little bit of a, a little bit of a sensual movement practice. So learning how to undulate your hips and create beautiful lines with your legs and how to dance with your head in a way that both feels and looks really sexy.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time and for your offerings. It's been such a pleasure to get to know you more. And yeah, I'm really grateful that you came and joined us.
My absolute pleasure. I've loved spending time with you.
Yeah, thank you. All right.